Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in, because today we are unpacking some truly counterintuitive science on how to sustain massive cognitive workloads without completely hitting a wall. Look, if you've ever geared up for a massive study or a work session, only to find yourself completely crushed and just staring blankly at your screen 2 hours in, you are definitely going to want to pay close attention to this. 12. Yeah, I know. Just hearing the phrase 12 hours of work probably sounds less like a goal and way more like a prison sentence. It is an incredibly daunting number. But what if we've been looking at long hours completely the wrong way this whole time? Okay, here's how we're breaking this down today. We'll hit the myth of the grind, the real enemy, which is friction, 3 hidden energy drains, building a frictionless system, the power of true rest, and finally, the secret to consistency. Let's get right into it. Starting off with section 1, the myth of the grind, and why exactly your brain anticipates exhaustion. You know, we've been taught basically forever that long hours are all about sheer endurance. Like if you just push through the pain, you'll get the work done, right? Well, the reality is burnout doesn't actually start when you're physically or mentally tapped out. It literally starts when your brain anticipates exhaustion. Your focus drops, and this heavy resistance shows up before you even open a book or launch a document. Why? Because your brain is predicting this uncertain, endless, and mentally expensive struggle. So it fights you from minute 1, just trying to protect you from an overwhelming threat. Moving on to section 2, the real enemy, friction. We're talking strain versus time. Okay, we need a complete mindset shift here. Your brain doesn't measure time the way the clock on your wall does. It measures the strain per unit of time. Enter load management. This is the practice of controlling cognitive strain and removing invisible mental friction rather than just obsessing over how many hours you tracked at a desk. The secret to consistency isn't your raw capacity to endure pain, guys. It's managing this invisible load so your brain never hits that panic threshold. To put that into perspective, look at the difference here. 12 hours of low-friction, clearly defined work is actually entirely sustainable. Your brain knows exactly what to do and exactly when to do it. But 4 hours of chaotic, cognitively expensive effort, the kind where you have 50 tabs open, your phone's buzzing every 2 minutes, and you're not even sure what your ultimate goal is, that will completely destroy your focus. It's exactly why someone can study all day and feel absolutely fine, while the chaotic 4-hour session leaves the rest of us completely burned out and dreading tomorrow. All right, section 3, 3 hidden energy drains. Let's talk about the invisible forces stealing your focus. So, if the sheer amount of time isn't what's draining you, what is? Well, your mental load actually comes from 3 hidden sources: decision-making, context switching, and emotional resistance. Think of these like those invisible background apps on your phone, just quietly draining your mental battery to zero while you aren't even looking. If you don't actively force quit them, honestly, no beautifully color-coded schedule or amount of caffeine is going to save you. Let's look at the real cost of decision-making. You're constantly asking yourself things like, what should I study next? Or, am I doing enough right now? Or should I take a break? We all do it constantly throughout our work sessions. But every single time you debate these choices in your head, you are actively burning through your limited cognitive fuel. You're literally creating friction out of thin air. Basically, you are spending your energy managing the process, not actually learning or executing. And that cost compounds quietly and relentlessly over the course of a day. This is exactly why advanced level work requires you to completely eliminate these micro decisions by building a pre-decided plan before your day even starts. You don't sit down at your desk to figure out what to do. You sit down to simply execute the plan. Then we have the second major drain, the context switching penalty. Look, jumping from writing an essay straight into a complex math problem or bouncing back and forth between drafting an email and analyzing data has a delayed but incredibly heavy cost. It's going to show up later in the day as slower thinking, lower retention, and this unearned fatigue. High-level execution means minimizing these switches by relying on longer blocks of deep, single-focus immersion. You just stay in one lane until the work is done. And finally, we have emotional resistance. If a task is vague or mentally uncomfortable, your brain instantly pushes back. Suddenly, you have the uncontrollable urge to check your phone, right? Or you find yourself rereading the exact same sentence 5 times without absorbing a single word. It is absolutely vital to understand this. That is not laziness, it is friction. Your brain just doesn't know how to step into the task. You must break your projects down into smaller pieces until they feel totally doable, just to eliminate that pushback. Which brings us right into section 4, building a frictionless system. This is how we design a controlled day. So how do we actually build this frictionless day? Step 1, wake up and execute a pre-decided plan. 0 morning decisions allowed. You should know exactly what your first task is before your feet even hit the floor. Step 2, work in longer blocks to achieve that deep immersion we just talked about. Less bouncing around means less battery drain for sure. And step 3, keep your boundaries strictly enforced. Every block needs a definitive start and a definitive end, because when your brain sees manageable, bounded segments, it completely stops panicking about an endless, overwhelming day. Next up, section 5, the power of true rest and the massive danger of partial recovery. Okay, let's look at the spaces between your work. Partial rests, like doom scrolling on your phone, browsing social media, or leaving your email open while you eat lunch, does not reset your brain at all. It just delays the fatigue. And trust me, that delayed fatigue is going to hit you twice as hard at 3 p.m. True rest, on the other hand, has to be clean, intentional, and involve complete disengagement. You have to step entirely away from the cognitive strain to let the battery truly recharge. And finally, section 6, the secret to consistency. Why you must absolutely never finish empty. We've reached the final, and honestly, the most counterintuitive secret to making this system work day after day. Never finish empty. Stop slightly early. I know, most people think you need to work until you absolutely drop, just drain the tank all the way to 0. But if you do that, your brain encodes the entire day as a painful, agonizing too much, and it will actively resist you the second your alarm goes off the next morning. By stopping just slightly early and leaving a tiny reserve of energy in the tank, you're essentially training your brain to answer yes to one vital subconscious question. Was yesterday safe enough to repeat? When your brain recognizes a clean ending and a sense of control, your resistance for tomorrow basically drops to absolute 0. You wake up feeling ready instead of already defeated. The ultimate takeaway here isn't about becoming some machine with infinite willpower. It's this. Don't try to become someone who can study for 12 hours. Build a system where 12 hours no longer feels like something your brain needs to escape from. Because when there's nothing to escape, there's absolutely nothing to resist. So I'll leave you with this final thought. How can you start redesigning your workflow tomorrow so there is absolutely nothing left for your brain to fight against?